The Valyrian Freehold was a great territory that spanned much of the continent of Essos, but has fallen to ruin, brought down by a cataclysmic event known as the Doom of Valyria. Culture that had been prospering for 5,000 years was lost in one day. Spells, knowledge, and recorded history were lost in the Doom, and a century of blood, a period of chaos in Essos, followed the disaster. The Valyrians of old are believed to have traveled as far as Old Town, predating the arrival of the first man and trading with the elder races. Some also claimed that Valyrians came to Westeros because their priests prophesied that the doom of man would come out of the land beyond the narrow sea. There are also speculations on some tragedy falling upon them that led them to shun Westeros ever after. Valyria was once a minor civilization of peaceful sheep-herding folk dwelling on the Valyrian peninsula until the Valyrians discovered dragons layering in the 14 Flames, a ring of volcanoes on the peninsula. The Valyrians tamed the dragons with magic and mastered the technique of raising and training the dragons into devastating weapons of war. Dragons were controlled by whips, magic horns, and sorcery. They began expanding their influence, establishing the Freehold, with Valyria as its capital. Magic-flowered, topless towers rose toward the heavens where dragons soared and smiths used spells to forge Valyrian steel weapons of legendary strength and sharpness. The sorcerers of the Freehold could see across mountains, seas, and deserts with one of glass candles. They could enter a man's dreams, give him visions, and speak to one another half a world apart, seated before their candles. The Valyrians had no kings, but instead called themselves Freehold, because all the citizenry who held land had the voice. Archons might be chosen to help lead, but they were elected by the Lord's Freeholder from amongst their number, and only for a limited time. The Valyrian nobility valued purity of blood. Therefore, the practice of incest was common in old Valyria, as the Valyrians would customarily wed brother to sister. These practices were not limited to the Freehold. On Dragonstone, the Targaryens continued to practice incestuous marriage and polygamy to keep the dragon bloodline pure. Some 5,000 years ago, in the early days of Valyria, the old empire of Geese dominated and controlled much of Essos. The Giscari attempted to stop Valyria's expansion, and the burgeoning Freehold was involved in a series of great wars against the old empire. The Giscari lockstep legions, comparable to modern day's Unsullied, attacked Valyria 5 times, but they could never defeat them. With the help of dragons, Valyria was able to defend and emerge victorious each time. Finally, in the last of the Giscari Wars, the Valyrians marched on their capital, Old Geese, razed it to the ground, and sowed its fields with salt, sulfur, and skulls, obliterating it and thereby destroying the old empire of Geese. Adopting slavery from Geese, Valyria expanded its influence over the surviving Giscari colonies of Slaver's Bay and continued to conquer and colonize, turning west, capturing many slaves from conquered lands and using them to mine great wealth from the 14 Flames, as well as build great cities and roadways that led to Valyria. Valyria sent slaves of 100 different nations to the mines beneath the 14 Flames, searching for gold, silver, and other ores. The worst slaves were sent down to die in the red darkness of the mines. The mines of old Valyria were always hot, and they grew hotter as shafts were driven deeper into the earth. The slaves toiled in an oven, the rocks around them too hot to touch. The air stank of sulfur and seared the slaves' lungs as they breathed. Sometimes, when they broke through a wall in search of gold, they would find steam, boiling water, or molten rock. Certain shafts were cut so low that slaves had to crawl or bend. Sometimes fireworms, creatures that breathe fire but have no wings, were encountered in that red darkness in the shafts of the mines by the slaves, leaving only burnt and blackened corpses, yet still the mines rode deeper. Slaves perished by the score, but their masters did not care. According to some scholars, the Dragon Lords regarded all faiths as equally false and looked down on clergy and temples as relics of more primitive times, but useful to placate the lower classes with promises of a better life to come after death. Thus, they promoted religious tolerance in order to keep their subjects divided and prevent them from unifying under the banner of a single god. Valyrians themselves had a number of different gods, including Balerion, Miraxes, Vagar, and Syrax. For many years the Valyrians were at peace with the Rhoynar civilization of the Rhoyne, west of the Valyrian peninsula. From the colonial freehold of Volantis, the Valyrians, instead of fighting Rhoynar, crossed the Rhoyne and marched west to wage war on the Andals of Andalos. Rather than be enslaved by Valyria, the Andals crossed the narrow sea and invaded Westeros. The Valyrians overwhelmed the remaining Andals of western Essos and established colonies west of their peninsula. The Rhoynish Wars began almost 1,000 years before Aegon's conquest, when free dragon lords from the Valyrian Freehold joined Volantis in destroying the Rhoynish port Sarhoy on the Summer Sea. The Rhoynar responded by uniting under Prince Garin of Croyan, the Wonder of the Rhoyne, who temporarily made Valyria tremble. Garin led a Rhoynish army of 250,000, which conquered Selhoris, Valisar, and Volonteris, where they defeated 3 dragons with Rhoynish water wizards. The alarmed Volantines sought help from Valyria itself, and the Dragon Lords responded by sending 300 dragons. The Valyrians crushed Garin's army with their dragons, then destroyed Sarmel and Croyan. According to legend, the man of Volantis and Valyria hung Garin in a golden cage and mocked him as he called upon Mother Rhoyne to destroy them. That very night the waters rose and drowned the invaders of Croyan. From that day the spirits of the fallen conquerors have said to have remained beneath the waters. According to Tyrion Lannister, Garin's curse is only grayscale. Many a voyager in the Sorrows has been lost. Pole boats, pirates, and great river galleys too. They wander forlorn in the mists, searching for a son they cannot find, until madness or hunger claim their lives. Princess Nymeria of Nisar led the exodus of the remaining Rhoynar out of Essos, eventually arriving in Dorne. The singers say her 10,000 ships were filled with women and children, suggesting most of the men of fighting age had died in the conflict with the Freehold. The Valyrians had great skill in shaping stone. It is often said that the old wizards of Valyria did not cut or chisel stone, but worked it with fire and magic as a potter might work clay. Although much of their knowledge is now lost, Valyrians had a powerful magic which could liquefy stone and shape it how they wanted. Valyrian Roads, known as Dragon Roads, still exist as monuments to their work, as do the Castle of Dragonstone and the Black Wall and Long Bridge of Volantis. The free cities, the self-ruling daughters of Valyria, are spread throughout western Essos. Volantis and Tirosh began as military outposts, while Mir and Pentos were founded by merchants in Andal territory. Dragon Lords established Lys as a pleasure retreat. Religious refugees founded Lorat, Norvus, and Kohor. Issaria was founded as a colony near the kingdom of Sarnor. Bravos was founded by slaves who rebelled against the Valyrian slaving fleet, and this secret city did not accept the rule of Valyria. The Valyrian peninsula contained cities Oros and Tyria. Near Volantis were built Selhoris, Volonteris, and Valisar. South of the Painted Mountains were Porash, Mantaris, and Tolos, while located in Slaver's Bay were Velos on the Isle of Cedars and Illyria. The greatest remnants of the old Empire of Geese were Astapor, Meereen. South of the Summer Sea, the Freehold controlled Gorgosos on the Isle of Tears, and also had 3 failed colonies at Basilisk Point in Sotorios. Some 2 centuries before the Doom, the Valyrian Freehold colonized the island of Dragonstone in the Narrow Sea and established a citadel there, with ineffective resistance from the local lords of Blackwater Bay. The island was the westernmost outpost of the Freehold. 12 years prior to Doom, Daenerys Targaryen, the maiden daughter of Aenar Targaryen, had a vision of the destruction of Valyria. House Targaryen abandoned their homeland for Dragonstone, an act seen by other dragon lords as cowardice. Nearby Driftmark had already been settled by House Valerian, a lesser Valyrian family, and Clowile became ruled by the Valyrian Celtigars. The Doom of Valyria was a cataclysmic event after which the city Valyria was utterly destroyed and the Valyrian Freehold crumbled and was no more. The Doom fragmented the land surrounding the city itself into numerous smaller islands, creating the Smoking Sea between them. The area is now described as demon-haunted, and most people are afraid to go there, as all known expeditions to the Shattered Peninsula has ended up in failure. At its height, the Freehold's capital, Valyria, was the greatest city in the known world. the center of civilization. Most of Valyria's culture, language, and craft was lost in the Doom. Valyrian descendants scattered across the world, many across the surviving Valyrian colonies, the Free Cities, and across the cities of Slaver's Bay. Many of the surviving Valyrians intermarried and became mixed with other people. Their descendants speak in various local dialects of Valyrian. Valyrian Freehold may be gone, but its descendants continue to reshape the realm.